I call Ria Bond.
Thank you, Mr Speaker. I rise on behalf of New Zealand First and my colleague Barbara Stewart to speak on the third reading of the Substance Addiction Compulsory Assessment and Treatment Bill. Mr Chair, New Zealand First does continue to support this bill, and as it enters the third and final reading here tonight in the House, the members of the public will know that from the first reading, the Committee of the Whole House stage, and also in the second reading, that this bill will provide for legislative framework for compulsory assessment and treatment of individuals with severe substance addiction who have a reduced capacity to seek treatment for themselves. Mr Speaker, the harm associated with addictions does have a significant impact on New Zealand society. If a person's substance addiction remains untreated, there are costs to both society and the individual person. That has a knock-on effect, and that affects people like their family and their whānau. It hurts relationships of people that love them the most. Sadly, this addiction can also incur a penalty which is a financial instability which can lead to homelessness, Mr Speaker. The New Zealand Drug Harm Index, released in 2016, found that the estimated social costs of drug-related harms and intervention costs $8.1 billion. That is $8.1 billion that this has become a social cost to our society. It is glaringly obvious that in New Zealand the scale of illicit drugs presence is a problem, and this does point to New Zealand having one of the highest drug uses in the developed world. Research shows us that alcohol and a legal drug in New Zealand is associated with a high level of social harm, and the principal drug used by those seeking treatment for addictions, and that came about during the submission period from the Royal Australian and New Zealand College of Psychiatrists. So therefore, as we've heard in the House tonight and previously, this bill will repeal the Alcoholism and Drug Addiction Act from 1966. And we've all said on this side of the House and on the government side that this bill is needed to be modernised to fit within the 21st century, so that it looks at what drugs are in our community now. The drugs that are around us in our society are more harmful than what we've ever known before, and the impact on our community members and whānau is too high a price, Mr Speaker, to not have this legislation modernised for today. We have had robust discussions in this House, and I do say to Mr Speaker, I'm aware that these actually occurred within the House Select Committee too, and I do on this note want to commend the House Select Committee that I did not take a part of, that they have done a fantastic job in scrutinising this bill along with advisors to make sure that it fits within what we need in New Zealand today and tomorrow. And I think that this particular bill of interest, Mr Speaker, is not one that any side of this House talk lightly at all. I know that through discussions there's an initial fear in Kiwis out there, and perhaps even in some of the members of the House, that we go back to the old days of when institutionalised patients were actually ineffectively mistreated. And I guess we have tried to, in great depth, Mr Speaker, ensure that this bill does protect the rights of the patient with involving their whānau, so that they're also involved in the care plan. So I do think that, and New Zealand First does think that this decision has not come lightly. It is for the person and people out there that have no ways or means in understanding that they cannot take care of themselves. And sometimes in this House, members, and as we've all discussed in some way, shape and form, we have to step up to the plate and realise that there is a real need out there in our community to step up to the plate and ensure that legislation here is fit for purpose for our community. So, Mr Speaker, New Zealand First will continue to support the broad intent of this bill, but throughout the process we've also had some reservations, and I think that we have to I guess we have to gain from strength from this. That some of the reservations that came through actually came through and identified by the New Zealand Law Society Commission, and it talked about things about the infrastructure and the service potential and the capacity of the mental health system to actually endeavour to house this legislation when it turns and comes down to patients. And we know already that throughout New Zealand, across all of our DHBs, that they are running major deficits. And what's also happening, Mr Speaker, and I don't think it's actually been touched on here enough tonight in the House and previous readings to the third reading, is the impact through the mental health care services, because the addictions and substance issues of our members in our community are not taken out and recorded as a standalone issue. They are dumped into the mental health system. So there's no clear, accurate way that the Honourable Peter Dunn could say that he's expecting maybe 40 to 60 people per year might be affected by this bill. I'd like to go so far as to say, Mr Speaker, from speaking to the community sector, mental health sector and volunteers, they expect this to be in the hundreds. The hundreds. What I wanted to know with the reservations is how could this little number of 40 to 60 per annum be an estimation when we are looking at putting such important legislation together to help protect the future and current addictions that are so seriously harming our community. And what I also learned throughout asking the community and volunteer sector is the issue is bigger than that, Mr Speaker. At the moment, and it was only in the report in the paper on the weekend, and it has got specifically to do with this particular bill. It's, you know, in here we have a facility that was in Porirua that has never seen an upgrade or any way, shape or form whatsoever, yet their new modern facility is only going to house 14 beds. 1992, this establishment was open. Honourable Peter Dunn, with the backing of his government, has introduced this bill to the House and not allowing for any more beds to open up to take care of the patients. That could be 40, 60, 200, whatever, because nobody knows. And I just think that this is a gross oversight by this government to implement a bill and get the support as it has done, but we haven't factored into the account here. Where are these patients going to go? Where are they going to go? There's no additional beds for them. There's no additional specialised addiction to substances through specialisation people that can actually help them through this process. Yes, it's said tonight that from the government side 6 weeks, the Greens are pointed at 8 weeks. There's actually an extension too, Mr Speaker, to patients particularly that need the additional support. Where's the community support wraparound services going to come from? Right. Where are they going to come from? That government has sat there and not even answered that question right throughout the process. And I think, Mr Speaker, it is a shocking indictment on this government to introduce a bill like this and have no follow-up services or commitment that the estimated cost associated in 2010 bought by this bill, $775,000, 7 years ago. In today's world, this cost is going to be much more major than that, Mr Speaker. So yes, New Zealand First will be supporting this bill in its broad intent, but we are also going to be watchdogs and making sure that this legislation is fit for our community, that's going to actually help people get the real services that they deserve when they cannot have a choice by their addiction by themselves to get or to find services that they can access readily. Mr Speaker, in closing, we do say that this bill is a needed bill. We have to address the issues that we have got in our society now. We have to address the addictions that people have. And I come across many people in my electorate, Mr Speaker, that actually cannot help themselves. And I think that whilst this bill has all the right intentions, I think there are major reservations into how this bill is going to look and feel to the patient that actually has to go through this bill. And I really feel that this bill will have a huge impact on the mental health sector, and it will have a huge impact on the community and volunteer sector within the mental health sector. And I think that this has been a gross oversight by the Honourable Peter Dunn and the National Government. Thank you, Mr Speaker.